what makes people cheat? What is the lead up? What is the pattern that ends up in cheating in relationship? A lot of the time people get really blindsided by cheating because they didn't even know that that was on the agenda. So I guess my intention for this talk today is to give you a bit of a background around what is it that kind of leads someone up to this point where they are more susceptible to cheating. I think a common misconception we have in relationships, when we get into the best relationship we've ever had, when we have a soulmate connection or a soulmate relationship, that this will probably fix all our problems. I think society has kind of peddled this notion to us, whether it's Disney princesses or whether it's just day-to-day conversations with family and friends, that when you meet the one, you know, all things are going to be great and amazing and you're going to be super happy. And I think somewhere subconsciously we take this belief on board. And so people get into relationships and they love this person, they get married, and the expectations are high for their partner because they think that by being in this marriage and by being in this relationship that they think is pretty great, things are going to go really smoothly for them emotionally from then on. When in reality, we know that you have to build happiness first within yourself as opposed to have it externally. So I think if we start from there, that's how we can really conceptualize cheating. So really what I would say cheating is a big need in the relationship is not being met, and therefore someone is going to look for that elsewhere. And so if you're starting this relationship in the mindset of this person's going to make me happy, this person's going to help me deal with my problems, whether that's my emotions or something else, and then if they don't live up to that need, you're going to be questioning that. Okay, why aren't they helping me anymore? Why am I so sad? Why are we fighting all the time when this is not what I kind of signed up for or what I expected out of this relationship? A lot of the time this gets deflected into blame towards our partners, that they're not doing enough, not being enough, not supportive enough, because the belief tells us that being in a great relationship, we should be happy. And I think that's where it starts, because that's where the flaws kind of show themselves a little bit more and we start to really question the relationship. This is where the cracks start to show and the resentment starts to build when your partner isn't quite helping you in every single domain. And sometimes it can be hard in a relationship for one person to be able to meet every single need. But I think with good communication, we can really work on the things that we do struggle with, because in every relationship, no matter how great, no matter how soulmate relationship, there are going to be problems and there are going to be difficulties, and it's how we communicate about that which determines our success, honestly. So if a need isn't being met in a relationship, so for example, if we talk about, say, emotional intimacy, if one partner maybe doesn't have that capacity to be able to be there for the other partner in an emotional, intimate sense or setting, this might mean that a need isn't met for that other partner looking for that emotional need. So if one partner is going up to someone else going, I really want to talk to you about something really bad happened in my day, and the other partner is just shutting that down and not really open to that conversation, this is going to be an unmet need, because that partner is going to be like, oh, I don't want to force them to sit here and listen to me, but I want to feel like I can have this conversation with my partner, because obviously in a relationship, I want to be supported. So if this is getting shut down constantly, this is going to build resentment. So that partner whose need isn't being met, if it's not addressed in the moment, if you're not having a conversation around that, why is this other person shutting you down? Do they feel comfortable with their own emotions? And even addressing that within ourselves, even knowing that that is our need of ours to be able to express ourselves and have that respected and kind of taken up on. If we can't even say that that's what we need and that's what we require in this relationship, it's going to become an unmet need that's going to build a resentment. So this is where the communication really comes into play. So if you are in that situation where you're finding you have this need for something that you really want in your relationship, that you think would really help and make your relationship flourish, unfortunately, our partners are not mind readers. They don't know these things. Sometimes we need to discuss this, because if it's not discussed, often it can lead to bigger problems such as cheating. So in that emotional intimacy example, so if someone is constantly being shut down all the time and not being allowed to express themselves, the resentment builds and they feel like they can't be their true selves around this person. And if they also don't have the capacity to be able to bring that to the table and explain that to the other partner, there becomes a bit of a rift in the relationship and they start to draw back from the relationship. To avoid being hurt, they just pull back and they don't say why and they don't say how. And this is where the other party doesn't even know what's going on. They might notice a bit of a pullback. Oh, this person's pulled back from me. They're not as close as where they were before. And this is my partner. I don't know why. But there's this underlying fear of conflict in a lot of relationships where people don't want to bring up the uncomfortable conversations. People don't want to have a conversation around why have you pulled back from me, because it's just so painful that it's hard to talk about. So what they'll do is they'll overcompensate. So they'll try even harder. They'll make sure dinner's on the table at 7 p.m. They'll do a 3-course meal. They'll put everything out on the table to try and fix this rift that has occurred in the relationship because a need hasn't been met. But if we're not communicating what our needs are, number one, we can't give our partner the chance to work on that and be able to step up and be that person who can help us with our needs. So often the problem is that something is missing or not going well in the relationship, and then this festers and becomes a bit of a wound and a bit of a resentment point, and then we haven't been able to express that, so we haven't been able to clear it and work with it. Because if we get in at that point where it's starting to become an issue and we say go see a therapist or just have those conversations with our partner and try to workshop what we can do to fix this or what we can do to help, it's going to de-escalate the situation a lot more quickly. So this is where it can still be saved before it gets to a certain point. But when we cannot communicate and the resentment builds, often you'll find that the parties just kind of drift apart a little bit more, and then that's the point where someone new walks in, and maybe it's at work, maybe it's in a completely different environment to your family life, and they are able, just because of their personality, they have that need that they can give to this other person. So if it's emotional intimacy, you can't really cry in front of your partner, you can't really show any emotion because you're so worried about them and how they'll respond to that, because a lot of people can't handle tears and they'll just say, no, I don't want to deal with this. And then if you're in a work situation and someone actually asks you how your day is and really wants to know, instead of just, oh, hey, how are you? I'm expecting you to answer good to me. That's going to hit that need, that emotional need that you're looking for. And you're going to be drawn to this person because they're giving you something that you can't find in your current relationship. And I think that's where temptation comes in. And that's where people get drawn to other people and are tempted to cheat on other people. This is the difficult part of cheating, I guess, where we have this unmet need. We might not even be consciously aware of what the unmet need is. Like maybe you couldn't actually label emotional intimacy, and then someone comes into our world who can give us emotional intimacy, and there's a conflict there that occurs. So we can't handle the conflict in the beginning, and then it ends up kind of dominating the relationship anyway. This is where it's a bit of a struggle because the other party, the poor other person who's been cheated on, has no idea any of this has happened. This whole timeline has happened where you've drifted apart, you haven't been able to talk about what the issue is, then someone new has come on the scene who's been able to fulfill that gap or that issue, and the other party has no clue that any of this has even happened and that there is even an issue to be worked on. So often when people do get cheated on, they're completely blindsided. They have no idea why this has happened or where it's come from because they don't have an unmet need and they're really happy with where they're at the moment. And I think that's where people feel really hurt and really disappointed because they would have fought for that relationship if given the chance. And I guess that communication and being able to say, I have a need that is unmet at the moment, is giving that relationship a chance. It's giving that other person a chance to step up and work with you on how we're going to help, how we're going to heal, how we're going to grow together as opposed to growing apart. And I think that's where it's so painful as well, because like it just gets ripped out from under you from when you've been cheated on, or the trust is lost straight away. You don't know why, and you kind of need to either work that out, or if you have a partner, usually partners can't really communicate anyway, so they're not going to be able to tell you why they cheated on you because they might not even know themselves that they were just following an unmet need. There's other reasons people can cheat as well, but I think the commonality here is always that there is an unmet need. Other people can also cheat as kind of a coping strategy. So there will be some people who go into relationship after relationship after relationship because they love the honeymoon phase, right? So when you're first in a relationship, the honeymoon phase is that time where like your partner has no flaws. They're just the best person in the world. You're just having so much fun, so exciting and new and fresh that there is no time to even notice the flaws in the other person. And you're having such a great time of it that this doesn't even come into play. So I guess in those circumstances, sometimes people get really addicted to that. They love that fun, fresh vibe where there is no conflict yet. You haven't had a fight yet. You're not arguing or resenting them yet because you're just in that honeymoon phase. But honestly, you don't really even know the truth of the person in that honeymoon phase. You just know them as you perceive them. And it's not until you grow that relationship and have it for a bit more lengthy of a time before these conflicts arise. And that's why communication is so important, because that's what's going to help us get over those hurdles and over those humps and back to those fun times. But some people find that they have such a fear of conflict, or they hate conflict so much that they just check out. And so they'll have a relationship, they'll get to that point where conflict starts, and they'll just check out and they'll go cheat with someone else because someone else gives them that fun that they're looking for, and they're not actually looking for a serious relationship. They're not looking to do the work that's involved in a serious relationship where you're putting an effort with your partner and they're putting an effort with you, and you're growing together and you're learning together and you're working through whatever difficulties there are. So we have to be mindful of that as well. Some people just won't have the capacity to sit with us in these courageous and difficult conversations to manage these conflicts. And they're probably going to be more likely to cheat as well. And then there's the other part of it as well, where these people might cheat and they've followed that need into a relationship with someone new, and that relationship's all shiny and new. They haven't had the honeymoon phase with that person yet. So of course it's going to look way more exciting and way more like way better of an option than their old relationship or their marriage. And they're going to jump straight into that because they are feeling that excitement and that freshness. But really, they're going to have the exact same problems down the track as well. There's going to be conflict issues again down the track as well in their next relationship. And then that's when they have to decide, are they actually going to stand and have a conversation with their partner so they can work through this? Or are they just going to follow that same pattern of avoiding conflict again and again and again, and ultimately get absolutely nowhere with becoming vulnerable and becoming close with people? So I know it's really hard sometimes when you have been cheated on to see them with a new person and to see how like happy they are and things like that can be so painful. But I guess if it's any consolation, just knowing that the difficulties talking things through and the difficulties being able to communicate is probably going to follow them wherever they go. And if they didn't give you that chance to help heal that relationship, that's not your fault, because you didn't know. You didn't know any better. You didn't know that was a cry for help, that they were looking for some unmet need to be met. And I don't think we can blame ourselves for that. So yeah, this has been a bit of an overview of what is underlying the cheating landscape, I guess, and what an unmet need looks like and can turn into. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot me a message under this live. If you want to recommend topics for next week, I would love to be able to give you guys what you're looking for in this space, or just have a general conversation with you about cheating if you've been cheated on, or if any of this resonates with you. So thank you so much, guys, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.